So Bitcoin just had its worst worst October in 7 years. But why? Is it paper Bitcoin? Is it BlackRock controlling the price? Or has retail simply just ran out of money? What if it's none of those things? Today, we're going to be breaking down and looking at the 3 reasons why October was so terrible and what could potentially come next. So let's jump straight into the source material today, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, you know what to do. Smash that like button. I can't share a screen.
Oh, man.
Why can't I share a screen? This is not good. I can't share a screen.
All right. Well, welcome, guys. Our streaming software is acting up.
And we got kicked off the screen. Okay. Anyways, jumping straight into it, why is Bitcoin stuck? One reason is that since July 1st, long-term hodlers have been selling their coins. The distribution volume has already reached 110K BTC, and their total holdings have decreased from 15.5 million to 14.6 million. Yet even under the selling pressure, Bitcoin has hit new all-time highs twice. Current demand is absorbing the long-term holder supply. As long as long-term holders keep taking profits, the upside potential will remain limited. So that's reason number 1. And this is exactly what we talked about yesterday, right? That long-term holders, or at least this is the theory, long-term holders are selling their Bitcoin. This is what George Bourdain was talking about. This is what a lot of people were talking about. I don't know. I guess so. So moving on to this next piece. Long-term holders continue to use the current price range to realize profits. Until their supply is fully absorbed and the metrics decline into the 2 to 1 zone, the upside potential remains limited, and the market is likely to stay sensitive to two-way volatility. So the good news about all of that, of course, is, again, eventually you run out of Bitcoin to sell. But these are people that were buying Bitcoin at $100 per coin, at $10 per coin, at $5 per coin. So they have a lot of Bitcoin, and they've been selling it. I think the average is like 3,000 Bitcoin per day, and that's the reason as to why we're not having this parabolic movement. They're taking some money off the table. Take a look at this other chart, Bitcoin long-term holder supply. So as you can see, it has, the total supply of long-term holders. And as you can see, heading into October, that supply is going down, which infers, of course, that they're selling it. They're sending it to exchanges, and they're selling the Bitcoin. It's exactly what's happening. Now, I think that the reason that it's caught so many people off guard is that it is supposed to be Uptober. And this Uptober is completely different than every other Uptober in Bitcoin's history. This is the first Uptober in a year after the halving that we've had a red October. It's never happened before. But if you take a look at the data, it's clear. The reason is long-term holders, people have been holding Bitcoin for a long time, selling Bitcoin. Now, let's compare and contrast that.
Hey, wait, Nico, zoom out a little bit so people can see the metric here. Like, guys, that's millions of coins right there.
Yeah. And now let's compare and contrast that with the previous cycles. The previous cycles were pretty standard. It was pretty clear. Like, look at 2017, right? It was pretty clear. The long-term holders were just selling into it. Look at 2021. The long-term holders were just selling into it. Now take a look at this cycle. It's very strange. Every single time we've had a run-up, you've had this massive amount of Bitcoin just being sold. Again, another run-up that we had went from 65K to 100K. We had a huge amount of Bitcoin being sold. But I guess the good news about all of this is take a look at how much Bitcoin, take a look at the Bitcoin price. It really didn't go down that much. And now we're seeing a very similar pattern. We made an all-time high. And again, you have the long-term holders just selling their Bitcoin, right? But we've never had this like double kind of selling event. It's never happened before, but the Bitcoin price is holding strong. So anyhow, that's reason number 1. Now let's get to reason number 2. Liquidity stress is rising. Banks are tapping the Fed's repo facility at the highest level since 2020. That means that they are short on cash and overnight borrowing costs are rising fast. Liquidity is tightening as QT drains reserves and Treasury bill issuance absorbs cash, as you can see right here. Again, this has never been really happening before. Now, the good news about this is that in the FOMC meeting that happened this week, we had Jerome Powell, and Jerome Powell basically admitted that they're ending QT starting December. He also shocked the markets a little bit by saying like he's not 100% sure if he's going to lower rates in December, but it seems like the betting markets still have it that he will lower rates. So that was reason number 2. Now, what is reason number 3? This incredible article by Investopedia. Bitcoin is sliding amid rate cut uncertainty, and here's why Uptober never happened. The price of Bitcoin has extended its slide Thursday. Altcoins, including Ethereum and Solana, fell even harder, likely disappointing those expecting October gains to materialize by tomorrow. The world's most well-known cryptocurrency is now below 1,700, so now we're at 1,900. The slide could underscore broader risk-off sentiments fueled by anxiety around the Federal Reserve's plan for future interest rate cuts. And again, this is what I was mentioning earlier. Fed Chair Jerome Powell said yesterday that another cut in December is, quote, far from guaranteed. That prompted traders to scale back expectations. So, this is all, the perfect storm coming together, and it creates these types of situations. Now, let's take a look at this other piece of source material from Joao Wedson. Interesting to observe, the number of BTC withdrawals from exchanges has remained almost unchanged since October 2024. And that brings an important reflection. For the first time in a market cycle, we're seeing low on-chain engagement for Bitcoin. Data suggests that many investors are choosing to keep their coins on exchanges or transact within them rather than moving funds directly on-chain. When we compare Bitcoin's on-chain volume with the on-chain volume of stablecoins, the difference is striking. Bitcoin's on-chain activity is at the lowest level ever recorded. Very few are using the blockchain. I think that has to do a lot with the introduction of the ETFs. This is why it's never been as important as it is today to take self-custody of your Bitcoin. Remember, self-custody is the revolution. This is highly troubling. And you can tell why this is happening. People are getting complacent. People are getting comfortable. But the fact that 11 out of the 12 ETFs custody their Bitcoin with Coinbase, I think not only does that create a honeypot situation, but that could also create a rehypothecation situation. This is something that I've talked extensively with Larry Lepard and Caitlin Long. But anyways, it continues to say, in short, Bitcoin's blockchain is quiet. Have you seen the fees lately? They've been awfully low, while stablecoins are screaming liquidity across the market. A contrast that says a lot about investor behavior in this phase of the cycle. So moving on to the final bit. This is a tweet by Michael Nadu. He says, persistent selling by BTC long-term holders continues to weigh on market structure. As this plays out, short-term holders are now sitting on losses. Historically, market expansions begin only after long-term holders transition from distribution to sustained accumulation. In my opinion, this will happen after the short-term holders capitulate. Now, I think million Satoshi question is, when is that going to happen? So the TLDR, what are the 3 reasons as to why October never happened? Reason number 1, long-term holders are selling. This is what George Bourdain was talking about. This is what a lot of these people were talking about. There's absolutely no volume of people buying Bitcoin. That's why Uptober never came to fruition. Now, will November be any different? I think that's a big question as well. But who knows? I've been saying this since yesterday, since I've gotten back. We are in uncharted territory. We've never kind of experienced this in Bitcoin's history. Not kind of. We've never experienced this in Bitcoin's history. And that leads me to believe that there is a possibility, again, not financial advice, that the cycles are over. And we only have 3 data points for the cycles. This is what you guys have to understand. There's only 3 data points for the cycles. And now that the institutions are here, now that Wall Street is here, now that the ETFs are here, the game might have changed, right? Does that mean that does that mean that we'll never see a parabola again, that we'll never see some type of mania again? No, that doesn't mean that at all. But I'm saying that the timelines are they've definitely changed. Right? That's for certain. Now, are we going to know 100% that the cycles are over? No, we're not going to know that until the end of 2026. So, I mean, the end of 2025. So, if we get to December 31st of 2025, and again, Bitcoin's just continuing to go sideways, do you think all of a sudden, just because it's 2026, Bitcoin's going to dump out of nowhere? No. I think we're going to continue to see this kind of like, chop solidation action until eventually the long-term holders are going to get exhausted because, again, guys, you can only sell Bitcoin once. Once you sell that Bitcoin, you run out of ammunition. Now, I think what surprised me, and this is a question that I asked Samson Mao, Opti, while I was in Lugano, it surprised me, and Adam Back. I asked Adam Back as well. It does surprise me a little bit that these OGs, because that's the type of people that have the amount of corn to create this amount of downward sell pressure, are selling this amount of Bitcoin. And this leads me to the joke that I've been telling you, man. Like, is the Ponzi over, right? But just to kind of leave it on a positive note, I love George Bodine's post about this, where he talks about it, and he talks about it in an incredibly positive way, because these coins are being bought. We have not crashed as I thought we would have. There's a relentless underpinning bid that is putting new price discovery in every one of these coins. We are creating a new cohort of coins that others view valuable above 100K. We are increasing the realized cap of Bitcoin every day. That is incredibly bullish for the long term. Someday you will be that long-term holder with incredible wealth and time, and you might want to buy something. So, yeah, I mean, I understand, but I mean, the question that I have for you, Opti, I want to continue this conversation, right? This flow that we have. Like, why didn't they do this last cycle? Like, why at 69K did we not have these OGs selling the amount of Bitcoin that they're selling? Is it the 100K psychological number that's creating this phenomenon where, like, you know what, dude, I've been holding, like, Bitcoin's 17 years old, right? I've been holding for, 15 years, right? I started when I was 30. I'm 45 now. I want to get my house. I want to get my plane. I want to get, whatever it is that you desire to buy. I want to take some off the top, right? And take some off the top for them means something very different than taking some off the top for most Bitcoiners, right? If you have 10,000 Bitcoin and you're taking some off the top, maybe that's 1,000 or 2,000 Bitcoin, but that's a fortune, right? So, this has been the story of today, of this year's this year's cycle, right? Is that long-term holders continue to sell. And, a little bit of a tragedy about this is that they're selling to institutions. They're selling to MicroStrategy. They're selling to Wall Street, right? They're not selling to individuals. Individuals don't have the capital to be accumulating the amount of Bitcoin that these OGs are selling. Now, on the positive note, and this is what I was trying to say earlier, is like, even though we're having this much sell pressure to the downside, and we have gone down from 126K to 108K, in the grand scheme of things, as George Bodine pointed out, he thought there would be a much bigger crash. And maybe I'm jinxing it. Maybe November is going to be horrible. But, I'm surprised that Bitcoin has held up the way it has. And he's pointing out the numbers here. They're selling 100,000 coins per month. 3,000 coins a day. 100,000 coins per month are being sold by the long-term holders, right? And, according to him, that's why he believes that there's all this downward sell pressure. So, Opti, I want to get your take, man, because I think a lot of us had, expectations for Uptober, which started very strong. October 1st, we were like, oh my God, we're heading to new highs, and then all of a sudden, that hope, that optimism, that expectation was just rugged right beneath us.
Yeah, well, first off, guys, before I dive into it, apologies for the glitches. Our streaming software is acting up, so I'm trying to troubleshoot live. Bear with us. It should hopefully be fixed. But anyways, to answer the question, I think two things are going on here. One is like what you pointed out. I think 100K is kind of, if you're an OG holder, you bought Bitcoin 2011, 2013, et cetera. You bought Bitcoin under $1 or even around $1. Or $100, like 100K is their moonshot. And for the newer entrants, maybe the 2016, 2017 type Bitcoiners, you can kind of look at it that like 100K was basically their million. And so you can't really blame them for taking some coin off the table. But I don't think that that's the only reason we're seeing coin, this much quote unquote long-term holder coin and the supply diminish like we're seeing it, because it's a lot of coin. It's around 1.5 million coins. I think the other thing to factor in is that in the last couple of weeks, we did see that BlackRock and the ETF issuers did get in-kind redemptions. And so I think a lot of the coin that on the exchanges, it looks like a sell, but in reality, I think they're swapping kind of their assets, their Bitcoin, to go into these ETFs for the various different TradFi benefits that they might get, whether they want a loan or the yields on top of it, or collateralize their Bitcoin. So we are seeing a ton of Bitcoin move into these Wall Street products, and the way that the exchanges work, that does look like a sell. Now, are they actually selling out, or rather, is all of this supply, technically being sold? When you look at the exchanges, it is technically being sold, but are they selling out and, just leaving the market for good? I don't think we can attribute all of that 1.5 million Bitcoin to Bitcoin OGs just selling out and, cashing in their fiat gains and moving on to a different kind of, just living off their fiat money. Like, I think once you get into Bitcoin, you're not just going to leave for dollars. If you're a Bitcoiner, if you've been around for 15, 16, 17 years, I think you understand the game enough, but you are at this point in your life, like you were saying, Nico, where, okay, sorry. Maybe it's me on my end. You are at this point in your life where you do want to use your wealth. And for better or worse, this is why I've been saying for a while that it does seem like one of the attack vectors from Wall Street right now is, this idea of capturing your Bitcoin, getting it into these Wall Street regulated products so that they have more control of that Bitcoin. Ideally, for them, there's two routes that they can do. Either one, some pure 6102 confiscation, or better yet, as we saw a couple of weeks ago, just some pure leverage liquidation. And so if you are in these products, what are the ways that they can get your Bitcoin? One, of course, like a rug pull, a 6102, just confiscate your assets. I don't think we're there yet. So what are they going to do in the meantime? They mess with the market and they liquidate your holdings so that they can get control of that coin. So I think those are the two fundamental answers to that question. Like, what are these OGs doing? One, they probably are taking some chips off the table. And two, they're doing in-kind redemptions. And so they're putting their Bitcoin into these ETFs for tax benefits, for potentially using collateral. Maybe they think they can outperform just spot Bitcoin. And so we are seeing that happen. The other things, that we mentioned earlier, I think the biggest one, guys, I know it gets kind of complicated when you think about all this, but I think the biggest signal here is just like there's literally no one buying. They're like, no one is in the market except for Bitcoin. I've been here for a long, long time. And as I've been joking on the show, it's like, I have no more fiat left. Like, if you've been in the market for a while, we've bought in every dip and we have no capital left to really buy the dip in bulk, when you're realizing that the institutions are the ones in control now. So like our little, pennies being thrown at the market right now are paling in comparison to the billions of dollars of capital. And I know we also have to watch the inflows and outflows of the ETF because, again, the institutions are essentially running the game right now. Doesn't mean they're in control of Bitcoin or they co-opted it. But hey, if they have a lot of capital and and Bitcoin is a bucket and the water is the total capital in the market, like what do our drops do when they're pouring bucketfuls or billions of dollars? But again, boiling it down to just simple supply demand economics, because me, I have a 42 IQ over here. So it's just like there are more sellers than buyers. And as we saw in the last month, a lot of Bitcoin, I think we are underestimating how much Bitcoin actually is being captured by these ETFs. This long-term holder in October down about a couple million coins. Like that's a lot of selling pressure. But on the flip side, the fact that we've stayed above 100K for this long, I think, is showing us a good consolidation period. Now, do we know what's going to happen by end of year? No. I see my buddy in the chat, and he's like, bro, it's over. It's a top. People are taking, risk off the table. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I don't think, actually, maybe we pull up let me see if I can pull it up real quick. The historic Bitcoin chart. We were talking about this yesterday. And if we look at what the past did, then I think a lot of people are starting to think that the end of this year, that November is probably not going to be that much better, because we are comparing, what year is this? The 2018 cycle, which was a bear market, and we got similar returns, negative 3.83, and then November was negative 36, and then December was negative 5. So I don't think the same thing's going to play out. What do I know? Obviously, maybe it's over November or something. I don't know what the name is. Just like, I don't know what we're memeing November if it's a bad month, but it does look like maybe this is like a 2014 kind of cycle thing, though I was joking with Nico, then that just means we're going to go up 2% in November and not see this 46 or median of 10% going up. But I think, as we've been kind of covering, this time does feel fundamentally different. Again, we have ETFs, we have the institutions here, and if you look at the market structure of Bitcoin, it has fundamentally changed, and we aren't below the 200-week moving average, the simple moving average. That still hasn't passed all-time high yet, which means it's probably going high. A lot of the indicators that people are looking at to kind of gauge whether we are at the top of the cycle, those haven't really hit yet. And I know everyone is talking about potentially pumping into 2026 and the 4-year cycle being dead. So things have fundamentally changed. And especially, you have a Trump administration, you have a president that's incentivized to pump this thing. Maybe the idea that we're going to pump all the way through the Trump presidency because we have a president that's, sixth largest holder in Bitcoin at this point. I think it's fair to say that the traditional kind of market structure in Bitcoin has changed since the ETF. So remember, we got all-time high before the halving. We didn't get an Uptober. 2025, the year of the bull run, was super mid. I don't know, guys. Like, again, yesterday you guys were kind of talking, or Nico was kind of going hard on this idea of you guys calling us fudders and bearish, and we're just looking at the data and trying to be as objective as possible. And now, I don't think the price run is over, but you have to admit to yourself that things have changed, and this time is different. We didn't get a 2025 parabolic run. Remember, 3 green years, 1 red. We got a kind of mid-green year. It's like it's barely hanging on. We're not beating the S&P 500 yet. We're actually still underperforming the S&P 500. Gold's been ripping. It's just like it does feel like the general macro environment is fundamentally different now. There is a lot of uncertainty. We don't know what's going on. And again, now that Bitcoin has kind of grown up and the institutions are here, they look at the macro markets, and that's their signals to deploy capital right now. And if they're uncertain, what do you think they're going to be doing? They're not going to be buying Bitcoin. That's just like very simple. So I still kind of think that we haven't really seen the institution comes in force into Bitcoin yet, and that could fundamentally mean we're going to be pumping into 2026. It's been a pretty mellow year, and since we didn't get a blow off top, we probably won't get as big of a dip as we're used to. So there is some benefits here, but again, we're just in uncharted territory at this point. I as Nico's been saying, as we've been saying on the show, literally no one knew what this year was going to be like. And you guys could say we're coping, all that stuff. We're just trying to make sense of the data. There is a lot of noise. Even amongst us Bitcoiners, there's a lot of noise. But when you look at the macro picture, there is a ton of noise. As we've seen in all the markets, you know, a Trump tweet just nukes the markets. And who knows when he's going to wake up at night, drink a Diet Coke, and just tweet and nuke the market. So things are very uncertain.
He tells Barron before, you know, like,
Chad,
go on
Super Chad,
go on Binance and short the shit out of Bitcoin, bro. But anyways, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. Help us break 100 likes within the first hour or first 30 minutes of the show. Of course, you're listening to Simply Bitcoin Live, the most watched daily Bitcoin live show on planet Earth. You guys are enjoying the show on Rumble, YouTube, X, or the audio platforms you're listening it after the fact. Smash the like button, share the show. Really, really helps pushing this message forward. I asked you guys in the chat, I said, do you believe the bull market is over? 73% of you guys said no. 26% of you guys said yes. I want to hear your thoughts. Like, why do you think it's over? Let us know down in the chat. Please let us know so Opti and I could talk about it. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, those are the three reasons as to why we did not have Uptober. Long-term holders are selling. That's number one. Number two, general uncertainty in the markets because liquidity is drying up. And number three, no volume of people buying Bitcoin. Now, here is my personal plea to Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell, please start the money printers. Please start the money printers. Please cut the rates. Start the money printers. But even then, bro, like, I don't know, man. Like, we were talking about this yesterday, Opti. You know, gold's having a parabola. The NASDAQ is having a good time. It's specifically Bitcoin. I want to understand what's in the mind of these OGs. Like, what are they thinking? What do these OGs know that we don't know? That's the question. And you could bet that a couple of them are watching the show right now, laughing their asses off.
Dude, they're just locking in some gains. They're like, I've been doing this for so long. I don't want to go through another bear market again. Maybe they're full 4-year cycle believers, and they're like, we've come towards the end of the cycle. I'm going to sell out right now. I can't. I mean, we joke about this all the time. It's like, personally, another 80% bear market at this point in my life is going to be completely brutal. And if you've been doing this for this long, you're just kind of like, I need to take some chips off the table right now because, you know, like you said, they're older, they got a family, they're probably trying to live. No, it's think. All right, it kicked me off here. You're just taking chips off the table. You're just like, I want to live my life a little bit. I don't want to wait another 15 years for me to gain some wealth. I'm at the point now where I could use a little bit of my wealth and still be a true Bitcoin believer. Yeah, I just think it's just human psychology. They're like, I don't want to deal with another bear market. I've dealt with 3, 4 at this point. And right now is a good time for me to, secure my lifestyle and maybe upgrade my lifestyle. So you can't really blame them. This is how Bitcoin gets distributed. As new price points come and people look at that as their moonshots, that coin gets distributed. New buyers come in. That's just how this market works.
Yeah, that's how the market works. Anyways, guys, we got a load of content loaded up for you guys. We got Christine Lagarde continuing to talk about central bank digital currencies. She's not lost the plot. She really, really wants these things. She really wants these things to go down. The formal rollout date has been announced. 2029 is going to be the formal rollout day of the CBDC in Europe. Now, I will say this, right? I guarantee you that Bitcoin regulations are going to get bonkers when that CBDC gets rolled out. They don't want competition. They want people trapped in the fiat system. A CBDC is the fiat system for the digital age, right? They want that connected with your ID. They want that connected with your travel patterns. Like they want the whole shebang, right? This is about keeping control. You got to ask yourself, is this really necessary? Does a CBDC really solve a problem? I would say no. I think a CBDC is a reaction to Bitcoin. That's what it was. I don't think a CBDC would exist without Bitcoin, right? So anyways, we're going to be talking about that during the numbers segment. And then during the news segment, some interesting clips that we have of Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor, basically, again, we played you part of the interview yesterday. But he had an interview with Kenzie Sigalos, and he's talking about how he believes that the industry is going to 10x from here as banks like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, BNY Mellon, all are you know, they're all getting into Bitcoin. And you saw the change from Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon yesterday, we played you guys the clip. For the first time in like years, he was saying, look, this thing's here to stay. Now, he was trying to shill his own his own stable coin, but regardless, he was basically admitting that, look, this is not going to go away. So we're going to be talking about that as well, and it's going to be a fantastic show, everybody. So strap in. We still got a lot to cover. Let's start the show. We're going to be right back in just a bit. If I could find the actual thing. Here it is. All right, everybody, we're going to be right back. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on Stampseed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the Stampseed.com store. All right, everybody, we are back. I do want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor, bitcoinwell.com. This is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Buy real Bitcoin, not IOUs. The reason we recommend bitcoinwell.com here at Simply Bitcoin is it's automatic self-custody. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. If you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, you have to check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. Speak to their team today. Go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC. This is a product designed for family offices, high net worth individuals, trusts, or organizations. Again, they will walk you through A to Z, buying the Bitcoin and that Bitcoin going straight to self-custody. So check out the bitcoinwell.com/OTC team today. Anyways, everybody, let's get to the numbers. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $108,780. Block height, 921,633. Market cap, 2.17 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 7.71%. Decline from all-time high, negative 13.8%. The grand scheme of things, I think we lost a little bit. Anyways, I did mention that we were going to talk about CBDCs. Here is Opti's ex-girlfriend, Christine Lagarde, and she's formally announcing the rollout of the digital euro. So let's check it out.
Hello.
Hello.
I have good news for you on the digital euro front. Today, the Governing Council has decided to move ahead on the next and final phase of the preparatory work for the digital euro. The other good news is that on October 23rd, the European Council has asked us and all those involved to accelerate the process so that we can roll out the digital euro as early as possible. This is important because as much as banknotes will continue to circulate, we want cash to be in the form of digital euro as well, so that you can circulate banknotes and click cash with the digital euro. More work is going to be done in the next few months, and if we receive the approval by the European Parliament in the course of 26, we'll be able to pilot the digital euro as of 27. And if the pilot is conclusive and positive, it will be a formal rollout in the whole of Europe in 2029. This is a big project because the euro is our currency, your currency. It brings us together. It's a symbol of trust in our common destiny. So off we go with the digital euro in that next and final phase of the preparation. Hello.
I mean, I just have so many things. There's so much to unpack there, right? You know, this shared destiny, right, aspect of it, you know, this shared commonality. And then how the way that she was describing it as if it was some type of good news, right? Like, this is fantastic news. This is good news. Like, this is going to help everybody. Dude, that is some 1984 like dystopian stuff. And again, she's phrasing it as if this is your money, right? Like, this is your money. No, no, no. That's the banker's money. That's the government's money. It ain't your money. If you're the average Joe, if you're 99% of the population, you do not benefit from the fiat system. They benefit from it. You do not benefit from it. But what I find like it's total cowardice to me that they're hiding behind this, like, you know, this is exciting. This is for you. This is for the public. This is your money. No, you can't just create more euros. That's counterfeiting. You can't audit the European Central Bank. You can't audit that, right? You don't know what the supply is, right? They make all the rules. You don't get any type of transparency. And this thing just inflates away. And the gall of them saying that somehow this is a public money. Bitcoin is much more public. You don't need to have any form of ID. You can just download a Bitcoin wallet. You can receive Bitcoin anywhere around the world. It's international. You can audit the chain. You can know exactly how much Bitcoin there is in the supply. You know, you can send it anywhere. You know, it doesn't have inflation, or the inflation is very low. Like, there's a cap supply of 21 million. It protects your purchasing power. Like, you know, that sounds more, you can create more Bitcoin. You just have to mine it. You have to invest in the infrastructure. That sounds a whole lot more public than whatever the F this lady's talking about. This is dystopian. This is like borderline evil, man. This is evil. Like, I gotta say, it's evil. Like, hello, I have some good news. Like, you know that the money system that we're gonna use to control everything about your life, well, it's gonna be rolled out in 2029, formal rollout. Like, that's crazy, man. That's nuts. I would be terrified. Like, if I saw, you know, we don't live in the EU, but if I saw, you know, American politics, they tried it. But if I saw, you know, Jerome Powell come on TV and say something like this, I would be losing my mind. I'd be like, this is crazy. And again, what problem does this fix? It doesn't fix a problem. It doesn't fix a problem. It's justifying the continuation of the existence of the central bank. And that's how they're framing it. And they're framing it like as if this is for your own good, right? And again, if they were so confident in their money, then why go after Bitcoin, right? If they were so confident in their money, if they're so confident that their money is money, that their money has value, why are you attacking Bitcoin? Like, let the best money win. Who are you to decide what money people should use? And I think that boils down to like the root cause of all this, right? Which is like, you know, again, we the people bestowed onto the government, right? You know, which I think was a bad idea, but anyways, you could make an argument that there was no other solution. We bestowed onto the government this idea of, listen, you guys get to regulate money. Like, you guys get to issue money, because if not, you know, people are going to cheat and things are going to get crazy, and, you know, there's no referee. But Bitcoin is a system, rules without rulers. And now you have the rulers trying to justify their very existence, right? They're saying they're basically trying to make the case to you that, look, this is why we should continue to exist, right? Where they've essentially they've been out innovated. Like, Bitcoin doesn't require a middleman. Bitcoin doesn't require a central banker to set interest rates. Bitcoin doesn't require, you know, any of this type of madness, right? So, you know, don't be fooled with these, you know, these videos about, oh, this is good news and this is whatever. Do you ever see these types of marketing videos from Bitcoin? Like, did you ever see this? No, you see crazy Muppet people making memes on the internet and people adopting it because of the incentives of Bitcoin. That's why they're adopting Bitcoin. They're not adopting Bitcoin because you know, some person on TV basically says, hey, good news, we're going to shove this down your throat through regulations and enforcement and coercion. Like, no, I completely refuse this framing. This is dystopian as hell. And this is why we Bitcoin. This is the world they want you to live in, by the way, right? Where they get to set the rules on what you can do with your money. So you spend your life, your time working for this money, and they get to dictate what you.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with our our streaming software today, man. It's going a little crazy. We gotta hit them up. But anyhow, Opti, I want to get your thoughts, dude. What's going on with your ex, bro? Because she's not being very nice.
You know, heartbreak makes people act strange. No, but I mean, I think the biggest thing that I find, obviously, central bankers are going to gaslight us. Like, they're going to frame this CBDC like it's something that you need, that it's going to benefit you. When in reality, when you understand what is actually going on, you understand that it's actually not going to benefit you, and it's actually going to be way worse than we currently are right now. But I'm always kind of, I don't know if impressed is the right word, but it is always interesting that they always frame this, that cash needs to go digital. When, if you understand how the banking system works already, cash is already digital. Yes, there is still physical cash notes, but when it comes to bank ledgers, it's already digital. Like, what are they actually doing with the CBDC that is different than what they currently have? Obviously, they're going to frame this as, this is going to update the banking system. You know, we're going to have faster payments. You know, faster settlement. The physical cash will now be digital. And in reality, it's like, if you understand how the banking system works, like, cash is already digital. Yes, we still have physical notes, and we know that they want to basically phase out the physical notes. And that's where the CBDC, you know, system is popping in. It's like, oh, your life is going to be easier. And then you add that on top of the digital ID. And it's really like you're walking into your own panopticon. Like, you're walking into a world that is totally surveilled, and you have actually no freedom whatsoever with your money. You're literally, like, they tell you out front, we can program your money and shut you off because you're eating too many sweets or whatever. You know, your carbon ID or whatever they call it is too high. Like, your carbon footprint is too high, and you know, for that reason, you're gonna have to eat salads instead of steak today, or you know, whatever. You can make up your own views on this or your own scenarios on this, but it is becoming very obvious. One, of course, like they are trying to frame this as this is good for you when in reality it isn't. And then two, it sometimes seems like they're not really even talking to the citizens here. They might be talking to someone else. You know, you can dive as deep as you want in on that. But the part that I found the most interesting on that clip is, remember, we've heard Christine Lagarde say for the better part of this year that the CBDC will be out in October. Here we are, the end of October. And what did she say in that clip? If we get approval, then maybe we can start building it. It sounds like she said we can start building this in 2026, maybe get a pilot program by 2027, and then it'll be fully, launched by 2029. It's like, that's 4 years. In 4 years, they're going to be so behind the curve from where Bitcoin will be that, in my opinion, it's just going to be DOA. Like, it has no chance of actually being used. They're already telling us that they're losing the game and everyone's waiting on them. Like, oh, hey, in 4 years, guys, we're going to update the payment system, the digital euro. In 4 years, where do you think Bitcoin's going to be from then? Like, this is a dead project as far as I'm concerned. This is non-existent. 4 years, if they were really smart, and they really were as technically savvy as they think they are, like, this would be launched now, and then we really have some trouble. So the flip side of this is, I think we're going to be good. Like, I think we're going to be straight. If they're going to launch this in 4 years, I think, as Nika has been saying on the show, and I do kind of push back on, like, Bitcoin already won. They're saying 2029 is when they drop the CBDC. What, 2020? What, we were just talking about it yesterday.
That's the year after the halving. The year after
and everyone thinks that we're going to be above $1 million per coin by then.
Yep.
It's like the CBDC is DOA. It's just like they're lost.
I wouldn't underestimate their willingness to use coercion to get people to, use a central bank digital. Yeah, I wouldn't underestimate their ability to use coercion to get people to, really go along with these CBDCs. I wouldn't underestimate their ability to do that. I wouldn't underestimate, how much they're willing to, to get people to use the system, because again, that's their source of power. And I think that's what people need to understand. Anyways, we're going to head on to the news segment. We have tons to cover. We're going to be right back in just a bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
All right, everybody, we are back. I do want to give a shout out to our merch. Guys, go check out our merch if you guys want to support the show. It's a little rocky these days with the price doing what it's doing. But if you do want to support the show and help us stay on air, go to simplybitcoin.com, get yourself a Simply Bitcoin hoodie and some t-shirts. They're really, really high quality. Opti's wearing one right now. If you want to switch to that Opti, you can model it a little bit. Super high quality, like I said, extremely comfortable. And this is the type of thing you'll wear this hoodie. Don't wash this hoodie. It's that comfortable. It's one of those hoodies where you just don't want to wash it.
No wonder you stink.
Because of how comfortable it is. So anyways, guys, let's get into today's news. We have a lot to cover. First, I'm going to start off. Did it happen again?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I don't know what's going on, guys. We'll get this fixed by Monday. Anyways, Mackenzie Sigalos and Michael Saylor had a conversation. And to quote Michael Saylor, the industry is going to 10x. It's going to increase by a factor of 10 based upon activities that are taking place at JP Morgan, at Wells Fargo, at Bank of America, at Morgan Stanley, and at BNY Mellon. Let's check it out.
The industry is going to 10x. It's going to increase by a factor of 10 based upon activities that are taking place at JP Morgan, at Wells Fargo, at Bank of America, at Morgan Stanley, at BNY Mellon. It's the big household brands at Citi, right? They're the ones that are going to introduce Bitcoin and digital assets to the next billion people.
And JP Morgan is now willing to accept Bitcoin as collateral. At least they said that they intended to do that. Talk to me about that component where you're seeing Wall Street banks lean into Bitcoin as collateral. What does that?
Yeah, I think the most exciting thing is 12 months ago, you couldn't get a loan against Bitcoin or a loan against wrapped Bitcoin like an ETF like IBIT. You couldn't get those loans from any major bank in the nation. And now what you see is that Bank of America, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, BNY Mellon are all beginning to embrace this asset class. You see other innovative banks, Charles Schwab, Texas Capital, they're offering pretty progressive credit terms against either IBIT, and now even many of those banks are starting to talk about offering credit against underlying Bitcoin. I think in 2026, we'll start to see some of these major banks like Citi custody Bitcoin, BNY Mellon start to custody Bitcoin, and companies like JP Morgan start to issue credit against it. At this point,
so key word there, right, which is he's talking about 2026, right? And this kind of going full circle to kind of connect it what we were saying in the beginning of the show. I think this is a totally different ball game, ladies and gentlemen. That's my gut instinct. I think the game has changed. The game has changed, man. The institutions are here. This is a meme that we had in 2017 when price, crashing from 20K to 3,500. It was a brutal correction. And one of the coping mechanisms that we had was, oh my God, the institutions are here. The institutions are here. Well, I mean, yeah, they're here. And I don't think it was what a lot of people thought it was going to be, right? So, anyways, I do also have another clip. I believe this is from an earnings call. And Saylor invited a bunch of influencers. I think Natalie was there, Ben Berkwan, Adam Livingston, I think his name is. So, anyways, just check out this clip, and then Opti and I will talk about it.
We're hearing rumors, and we've heard, that a number of major banks in the U.S. in the first half of 2026 will start to buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, custody Bitcoin, and issue credit and margin lines against the native Bitcoin asset. That will be great for them. That will be great for Bitcoin. That will be great for us. That will accelerate adoption.
So again, yeah, it's a different taste, man. It's a different taste. I think Opti and I, we're going to continue to hold the line for individual Bitcoin adoption. This is what Simply Bitcoin is all about. But there's a whole new buyer of Bitcoin. And it's the banks. It's the institutions. It's BlackRock. So yeah, I mean, I agree with Jack Dorsey when he said that, if people don't take self-custody of their Bitcoin, this thing fails. That's why we recommend here at Simply Bitcoin the BitKey hardware wallet. Incredibly easy to use. The link's in the video description. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of it is a little bit of a bummer, dude. It's bittersweet because that if these banks start buying Bitcoin, they're gobbling up a lot of the supply. Maybe this is what all the OGs know that we don't. They're like, dude, like the suits are here, like this is over, it's not fun anymore.
Ponzi's over.
And if you take a look at just the conferences in general, they've completely changed. It's not as militant and as revolutionary as it was in the beginning. So yeah, I mean, not to be doomer or gloomer, but things have changed. This is part of Bitcoin becoming a maturing asset. I still think that we're going to see hyper Bitcoinization. I still think that Bitcoin is going to be the world's reserve currency. I think all of those things are true, but I think as individuals, I'm going to ask you guys, right? I've been doing this for 5 years now. Don't ask what Bitcoin could do for you. Ask what you can do for Bitcoin. Are you taking self-custody of your Bitcoin? Are you telling your friends and family to take self-custody of their Bitcoin? Or are your friends and family buying Bitcoin and, putting it in, buying ETFs instead? I would say that's a bad thing. I would say if you're watching this show, you should be buying spot and putting into self-custody. And, a lot of our sponsors completely align with that outlook. Opti, I'm gonna pass it on to you, and then we're gonna end the week strong with the culture segment.
Yeah, it's Bitcoin White Papers Day. We're gonna actually have some celebration today, I think. Anyways, my view on Saylor's take here. On the one hand, what he said could be taken very bullish. Obviously, if you saw that tweet and kind of what he said, he's basically saying the biggest institutions, the brand names here that you consider in banks will take Bitcoin to the next billion people. On some front, I think that's a good thing. A billion more people using Bitcoin. Obviously, that means it's going to very thoroughly saturate throughout the culture. It means people will be very used to Bitcoin. It means you will see Bitcoin in your traditional banking apps, which means that people can get their wealth into Bitcoin. Though, I think the medium for which they will get their capital into Bitcoin is probably going to be regulated or relegated to the ETFs and various Wall Street products. And it does just make me think that is captured Bitcoin, that if it's not in self-custody, then essentially Wall Street is in control of that Bitcoin. Now, do I think that means Bitcoin is over, the revolution? The majority of Bitcoin is held in self-custody. this is where the real fight is. I think this is the attack vector that we are seeing. So again, on the one hand, you could look at what Saylor is saying and just be like, bullish. 1 billion more people are adopting Bitcoin. You know, Wall Street's bending the knee to Bitcoin. The biggest banks in the world now want Bitcoin. On the other hand, you kind of look at this and you're just kind of thinking to yourself, maybe because we are more of a militant, maybe that's just our upbringing of self-custody is a revolution. You need to hold Bitcoin. Like, you know, F the bank, separation of...
I think we want to change the world.
I agree. But what I'm saying is when you start to see JP Morgan talk about collateralizing Bitcoin, you're starting to see, you know, rumors of Wells Fargo, Citibank, you know, all the big banks now wanting to custody Bitcoin. You're starting to see, you know, BlackRock in the ETF. The very people that were, you know, in charge of the 2008 financial crisis, which is when I became, you know, an adult, basically, are now wanting to get into Bitcoin, and everyone's just going to trust them because they have the brand name and they've been around for 100 years, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. To me, that's not what Bitcoin was designed to do, but it's also, I don't think, really taking away from what Bitcoin will do. We knew that traditional finance will eventually embrace Bitcoin, aka the Trojan horse meme. You know, Bitcoin is a Trojan horse for freedom, and now they're coming in. And so I do think that Bitcoin is what we think it is. All I'm saying is that the next 3 to 5 years is probably going to be a totally different battle than what we saw before, which what you're seeing right now with this whole like core knots debate. I've been kind of on the fence that like it is distracting in the sense is like, guys, like the real enemy is at the gate, and it is Wall Street, it is institutions, it's the nation states, and here we are fighting each other.
I wouldn't say it's the enemy. I would just say like,
well, the real attack, whatever you want to call it, the real attack is that it's on our gate.
It's the enemy. I would say like, you know, they're following their incentives and they see Bitcoin as this fantastic product, and I mean fantastic asset that they can. Did we get booted off again?
Yeah, dude, we're struggling.
Dude, oh my God. All right, guys.
We're on.
I apologize. I don't know what's going on with our streaming software, but hopefully we'll get it fixed for you guys by Monday. But anyways, let's get to the culture, dude. And you know,
try to end the show strong.
It's Bitcoin White Paper Day. Let's check it out.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at HIVEdigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitcoinBend.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Bend's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank, and you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys, tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth, and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinbend.io, join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
Alrighty then, boys and girls, mainly boys, but some girls. It's a celebration, guys. It's a holiday. 17 years ago today, Satoshi Nakamoto unleash the white paper on the world. October 31st of 2008. Let me go here. I'm not going to read this because hopefully you guys have read this. But as you can see, I'm over here on Nakamoto Institute. October 31st, 2008. So it's been a 17-year-long experiment. Obviously, it didn't come out until 2009, January 3rd, 2009. But when the world learned about the white paper, Satoshi Nakamoto unleashed it on the cryptography mailing list. And here we are, 17 years later. Bitcoin's growing up at... I don't know what's going on here. As you can see, we are now thoroughly starting to integrate into the traditional financial system. It's come a long way in the last 17 years. I think it's come a long way in the last few years. But again, I think a lot of people underestimate just how young Bitcoin is and how far it has already came. And so, you know, maybe if you haven't refreshed yourself on the white paper, now might be the time to reread it. I know I don't read it every other week, but I do like to read it once a year. I haven't read it this year, so maybe if I get some time this weekend, I might sit down and read it. I read the abstract in the first couple of paragraphs all the time on the show. But again, guys, 17 years, I guess it's one of those things, Nico, is like, what's Bitcoin's birthday? Is today its birthday or January 3rd? When it was released or when the white paper was released?
I would say January 3rd.
January 3rd? Wow.
January 3rd.
This is when the world heard about it.
There was the conception, and then there was the release.
Love it.
This is when Bitcoin was. This is when Bitcoin was conceived, but when Bitcoin was born was January 3rd.
Okay.
So
it took it 3 months. Well, 2 months. 1 month.
I mean, if you want to look at it
2
that
months.
way,
3 months to birth Bitcoin.
Yeah. But it is Bitcoin White Paper Day. Congratulations, everybody. Bitcoin's 17 year. Well, it's been conceived, right? So it turned 17 January 3rd. But
it's still 16 in 2 months,
dude. And wow, man, it's been a long time. It's been a long time.
Yeah, you know what's actually crazy?
Like no wonder it's being talked about on Wall Street, bro. This thing's like almost 20 years old.
Well, but in comparison to gold, you know, they always say gold's thousands of years old, and Bitcoin's not even, you know, Bitcoin is not even 18 yet. It's still 16 and 5/6 or whatever, 4/5, something like that, whatever the math is. You know what is kind of interesting now, Nico? I know you get trolled at all the time in the chat because they're always like making fun of you for saying, you know, I've been here for 9 years. But yo, I've been here for I think 8 years now. So I've been around.
Next year you're gonna be here for 9 years.
I know, but I was just gonna say
after that, you'll be here
I
for
get
a
it,
decade.
dude. I get it. I know. But what I'm saying is when I got into Bitcoin 2017, like you felt late to Bitcoin. And here I am. I'm been here for half of its lifetime. And it's literally gone by in a blink of an eye. Like
I don't know about a blink of an eye.
Well, it's been a bumpy road, but I can still remember when I got into Bitcoin. It didn't feel too long ago, but when you look at it, it has been a long time. Especially maybe it's because it's a stable coin now, guys. So, you know, I was rug pulled on the promises. The Ponzi's over, guys. Back it up.
Anyways, guys, that was our last episode for October.
Forever.
And no,
I'm just trolling.
That was our last episode of October. Obviously, you know. There we go. Thank you. A lot of us were expecting that, you know, October was going to be more of an Uptober. But I think that this cycle is going to be very different. We explained it at the beginning of the show, and we're going to be here to cover it for you guys, to talk to you about it, and you know, to take you guys on the journey with us, which is Bitcoin, man. So let's see what happens. We're in completely uncharted territory. So that means that we could dump tomorrow. And that means we could also rip tomorrow. We don't know. And nobody else knows either, which makes it incredibly exciting. Simultaneously, Saylor is saying that the largest banks in the world are going to be buying Bitcoin next year in 2026, the supposed year of the bear market. So again, I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen, but we'll stay on top of it, and we'll try to keep you guys informed. Until then, we love you all. We appreciate all you guys. Thank you guys so much for keeping the show on air. It wouldn't be possible without any of you. So thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart, and enjoy the weekend, and we'll have all this fixed by Monday. Love you all, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.